Well, my body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea. Ooh, my body lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my body to me. Bring back, bring back, oh, bring back.
Hello everybody, my name is Travis Allison. I'm excited to be here and co-hosting with Scott Arizala on the Scott Arizala Show. Scott, it's great to see you again.
Hey Travis, thanks. Good to see you too. My name is Scott Arizala. I'm a summer camp consultant and trainer, and so excited to talk to you guys about today's topic for this episode, praise. I think it's one of those things that this is part of our communication series on the Scott Arizala Show, and it's just one of those things that I think we can't talk enough about. When I was originally talking with Travis about this, one of the things that sort of came up was this idea of, kind of catch 'em being good. And it's always something that that's always a statement I've never really liked, for reasons that we'll talk about in a little bit. But when it comes to praise, I think there are some simple, basic ideas that we often forget as far as praise. And this is something that I've been teaching for 10 years now, maybe more, as far as my own staff and whatnot. And it's something that I still find challenging to this very day. I have a 3-year-old, and there's some really basic things about good praise being really specific, being process-oriented, so on and so forth, that I find myself challenged every single day. And it reminded me of a story that I wanted to tell you all about praise. So at Dragonfly, my camp, the camp that I'm the director of, we have little ones there. We say we take them at 7, but we always seem to get a handful of 6-year-olds. And a few years back, we had a group of 6 and 7-year-olds in our youngest unit, the red unit, who, as you may have guessed, were having trouble staying in their rooms during rest hour. Now, we actually are hosted by a private boarding school, so unlike a typical camp that has cabins, we have what amounts to dorm rooms, and so there's 2 or 3 kids in each room, and it was rest hour, and the staff, partway through the week, and the staff were really starting to feel run down, and as well as the kids, and they were really trying to keep the kids in the room and whatnot. And this one particular kid had a ridiculous amount of trouble staying in his room for the first, it was 2 or 3 days. I mean, just every couple of minutes coming out, another question, wanting another game, another book, so on and so forth. About day 3, he stayed in his room, and he for some reason, I can't remember why, but this particular rest hour, he was alone in his room. For whatever reason, his roommate wasn't there. Maybe his roommate was in the infirmary or something. I can't quite remember why. At any rate, one afternoon, about the 3rd day, he stayed in his room for 45 minutes of the hour-long rest hour. And when he did come out, the staff were over the top. They were like, we remember what Scott said about praise. We're going to praise the behavior that we want to see. He came out of his room and they were like, good job. You did such a good job. Just were over the top. High fives and, just over the top. The next day he stayed in his room at rest hour, no problem. The last day of camp, he stayed in his room at rest hour. The staff are feeling great. They're like, see, it works, right? You praise the behavior you want to see, and they do it over and over again. It was the last day of camp. They were cleaning up, packing their bags. That night was the talent show. The next morning was closing day. Everyone was going home. They were packing their bags, and the unit leader, her name was Chelsea, she was in there helping these kids clean up, and she noticed an awful smell. I mean, just a horrendous smell. Now, if you've ever worked with 6 or 7-year-olds at camp before, boys or girls, there's a lot of awful smells. But this one was over the top awful smell. And she's in there helping them clean. She opens up the closet, and there are about 3 days worth of poops in the closet. And she said, you know, what is going on? Who pooped in the closet? And this kid who had had all the trouble in the world staying in his room at rest hour, he sort of sheepishly said, well, I did. She said, no, you know, why would you poop in the closet? And he said, well, because you guys told me I did such a good job. You guys told me that I did the right thing, and so I just pooped in the closet. And I thought that's what you wanted me to do. And she had to take a step back, and she realized, oh yeah, we were praising you. We just never really praised you for staying in your room. We praised you just saying, hey, good job. And he thought they meant pooping in the closet. So it highlighted for me some of the big pieces that we often miss when it comes to praise.
So what they were doing wrong was not, well, they're just giving general praise. They weren't praising him for staying in his room and not.
Yeah, and I think that's the basic understanding that we have to understand about kids. You know, they don't see it the way we see it. They're not noticing the things we're noticing. They don't know a lot of the things that we know. I don't care how old you are as a staff member. You could be a 16 or 17-year-old CIT. You could be a 20-year-old camp counselor. You could be a 25-year-old unit leader. You could be a 37-year-old camp director. It doesn't really matter. The reality is that you have more world experience, we'll say, than the campers. And so for you to notice something that they're doing, they may not be able to frame it that way. And so obviously in this moment, you know, they were saying good job. He thought, okay, you know, I pooped in my closet or whatever. They obviously meant staying in his room. So just adding that sort of specificity around, hey, you know, we noticed that you stayed in your room for 45 minutes. You know, that's being really, you know, patient. You know, way to go. It's an awesome job. That in and of itself is way more specific. You know, the second piece that I think is incredibly important to talk about when it comes to praise, which again they had sort of forgotten or they weren't utilizing, I guess, is this idea. I always talk about praise process, not product. You know, and this I think is specific to our relationship that we have with kids at camp. You know, the reality is at camp, you know, look, I don't really care if you don't do the thing the right way, if you're not, you know, proficient at shooting free throws at basketball or getting bullseyes at archery or making the art project the right way or whatever. I don't really care what sort of the product is, the end result. You know, what I really care about, and you know, it's arguable whether this is really specific to our relationships that we have at camp, but I know it is included in that. You know, is I care about how did you get there. You know, at camp I care if you were persistent and kept trying things over and over. I care if you were trying something new for the very first time. I care if you were like having fun along the way. Those are the things that I'm paying attention to. And so when we all get out on the soccer field and we're kicking the ball around and I notice that you guys are using really good communication and spreading out, like I don't care that resulted in a goal. I know you care as a 12-year-old that resulted in a goal, but I don't really care about that. That's not really what I'm praising. I'm praising, I love this idea about how you're talking to each other and spreading out, right? And you were able to sort of set out a different way so that you could eventually score. It's that process part that I think is so important, and that's what we need to spend more time praising than the product.
And part of what we do when we praise is give kids a clue what behaviors they want them to repeat.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point, right? One of the reasons why we praise. And this is, back to what I was saying at the beginning, this is one of the reasons why this kind of idea of like catch them being good kind of makes me nuts a little bit, because you know, the reality is that like most kids most of the time are doing really positive things. You know, they're getting along, they're treating each other nicely, they're sharing stuff, they're communicating in sports, whatever it is. I mean, most of the time, most kids are really doing some really great things. So this idea of like catching them being good makes me feel like, well, they're mostly doing bad things every once in a while when they do something good, we should catch them doing that. I think we should do it a little differently, kind of open our eyes up a little bit and see how they're doing a lot of like really repetitive, good behaviors, and notice those things more and help them name it a little bit and help them to see how that positive behavior gets them what they want, right? Which is, of course, us, sort of like what you were saying, Travis, us helping them with understanding behaviors that not only we want to see, but more importantly, that help get them what they want, which sometimes is recognition, sometimes it's a pat on the back, sometimes it's, for us to sort of recognize the effort that they put into something and how hard they were trying, so on and so forth. But those are the sort of two pieces that I think are important in that.
3 Adventures International Camp Staff. 3 things you should know about 3 Adventures. 1. Our owners are all former camp directors. 2. We're a high-quality company that's easy on your budget. 3. Background checks. Our international camp staff come from all over the world, and every one of them has had a background check. No exceptions, no excuses. 3adventures.com, the site to get great camps connected with great staff.
Well, as a director, Scott, I've always felt that my job was to train the people that work for me to see the way that I see, with all of the experience that I bring. And Beth and I, and our staff always called that having director's eyes. Is there something that you can train your staff to see these positive things and then kick in with the praise?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of my one of the best strategies that I've ever taught, specifically, I love that framework, by the way, Travis. I'm going to steal it. I want you to see with director's eyes. But one of the sort of techniques behind that I've always taught that I think is really powerful is I ask my staff to constantly be thinking about every interaction that they have with kids, anytime that they're out and about with kids, wherever that is, right? I want them to be thinking about this question: what am I looking for right now? What do I want to see? All right, and the answers to that question are invariably things like, I want to see them getting along, I want to see them sharing the stuff, I want to see them having fun, we're going to the high ropes, so I want to see them like push themselves individually, I want to see them trying something new. Like, those are the kinds of things, and obviously the context is different if it's like, I'm just walking with this one kid to lunch. Well, what am I looking for in that moment? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking for that kid to like be honest with me about his morning. I know he had a tough morning. He got in a fight with that other kid, so I'm just looking for him to be honest. Or maybe I'm just looking for him to like open up a little bit and tell me about like something that's going on with him. Or maybe I'm just looking to like have a relaxing moment with this kid and not really expecting anything. But the whole point is that we've got to open our eyes to see it. If not, like I said, we'll never see it, because we have all been trained, in youth development around this crazy concept of catch them being good. It speaks a principle that I've often talked about, sort of a psychological principle that anybody out there who's taken Psych 101 has probably heard about. It's called selective negative focus. And I believe this is something that, we really suffer from when it comes to kids and their behavior. I mean, selective negative focus, what it means is, if you break down the words, it's like pessimism. It's like pessimism and enhanced pessimism. It's there's a bunch of good stuff going on, a bunch of bad stuff going on. What you do is you select the negative stuff. So selective negative focus, but it takes it to the next level where you're looking at this bad thing and you actually screen out what contradicts the bad thing. So you don't actually even see it. This is why I say we suffer from this when it comes to kids and their behavior. We don't see that they're doing these good things until one kid decides to punch the other kid in the face. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hey man, you can't do that, let's talk about that, and da-da-da-da. But we didn't notice all the sort of positive interactions that were happening up to that point. So, there's a lot there, but I think what the idea is that we have to teach our staff to open their eyes and see it. We have to teach our staff that kids are doing really great things all the time, but it's a matter of us looking for it, because we're never going to see it if we don't. And then, of course, when we do see it, we praise it.
Right, and part of that being always watchful and then praising the good things along the way is making sure, because kids can see right through us, making sure that the praise that we have to offer is genuine.
That may be one of the harder things to do. And it goes along with everything that I'm just saying, right? I mean, it's very easy. Hey, good job, right? But if you're not paying attention, they know that it's not genuine. I want you to start your statements with something like, hey, when you guys were over there, I noticed that you. All right. Now, first of all, it's really specific, whatever you're about to say. But you have just bought yourself some credibility with a kid because of the first part of the statement, right? The first part of the statement is basically saying, I was paying attention to you and I noticed this thing. All right. So that's one technique for you to create some really genuine praise. The space that it's really hard to give genuine praise is, and anybody out there who's ever been a camp counselor before knows what I'm talking about when I say when you get some of those kids, and it's the kid who seems to make every sort of challenging and negative choice that is possible to make. This kid makes them all. Right? Like, I definitely have had many staff members, I felt like this myself, come into my office and say, there's nothing that this kid does that is okay. And I've been there, I've seen that. In fact, I feel like sometimes I have staff that are like that. All right? And the challenging part is, that's not true, to get down on the ground and say, well, what is it that we can praise? And back to your point, right, Travis, it's about noticing. It's about being really present. It's about being really aware. And that idea of being present is extremely important. It's a skill that we don't practice anywhere else in life. It's a skill that at camp, when we're working with kids, is huge. At camp, it's not appropriate. So let me just share with you. 2 nights ago, I was out to dinner with my wife. And she works with college students at a university counseling center. So she's very in tune to college kids and their behavior. I obviously am in tune to a lot of, sort of that age, as well as younger kids and their behavior. One of the things that we've noticed is that kids at that age, text at dinner. There can be 5 people sitting at the table and they're all texting. They're all doing something on their phone, not engaging with each other. We were at dinner the other night. We noticed a couple of tables of doing that. And then we noticed a couple of tables of folks who are our age doing it as well. And we were floored because, their mental energy is somewhere else. And it's like, look, you're taking this opportunity to go to dinner. Be here right now. It's a skill that not only we don't practice, but it seems to be getting worse in our culture as far as being present right now in this moment. It's one of the things that you need to practice when it comes to being with kids that's going to help you praise appropriately. Being here right now, noticing what's going on right now.
I wonder, Scott, if you can just give us some final thoughts on the best ways to praise or things that we can pass off to our staff.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, words are really important. It's powerful to think about how we're talking to kids, not only because of who we are as their camp counselors and as sort of role models and trusting adults in their lives, but about how powerful our words can be. One of the things I wanted to leave you guys with was a study that I read about done at Columbia University a handful of years back. Basically, a woman took 2 groups of kids, I think they were about 5th graders, and she gave them all math problems that were sort of at their skill level. And they all got about 95, 96% right. This is two separate groups. And the first group, she went to do the debrief, and she said, hey, you guys are a really smart group of kids. You guys got 95, 96% right. She went to the second group of kids. I'm sure there was more, but she went to the second group of kids, and she said basically the same thing, except for she said this: hey, you guys are a really hard-working bunch of kids. You guys got like 95, 96% right. And then she gave all these kids a second set of math problems that were sort of necessarily above their level. And what I found fascinating is that it was the second group that did statistically way better on the second set of problems. It was this group where she used the only word different that she used in the debrief was the word smart for one group and hard work for the other group. And I thought it was fascinating because just that one conversation, the one word used once, allowed the hardworking group to do statistically way better on a second set of math problems than the first group. And the way they talked about it was this. You know, we probably would disagree with this, but you know, the reality is in our culture, smart or smartness is sort of fixed. You either are or you aren't, right? You're either in the gifted and talented program when you're in first grade or you're not. Hard work is something different. Hard work is something that you can sort of, it's active, it's you know, it's engaging, it's a verb, right? You can like do more of it. So the first group, when they got the second set of math problems wrong, they said to themselves in their minds, they said, well, we're not smart enough. So they stopped trying. Where the second group said, well, we're hard workers. I didn't get it right, so I must not be working hard enough. So they continued to try and, of course, elevated their grades. I just think it points to how powerful some of this stuff is. And if we're just a little intentional about being specific, about thinking about the process behind something, about noticing what kids are doing, our praise can go so far into teaching them not only a lot of these life skills and these values that we teach at camp, but how to actually better themselves.
I'm just going to take a moment to say thank you to those who've been joining in. It's been nice. I was just chatting on the chat with Jennifer, who's been watching all 4 shows today. She's come from show to show as we did it. So thanks to Jennifer for that. We look forward to having more people join us. We'll keep scheduling these so that people can join us and know when we're filming. And if you want to find out more information about what's going on with the show and watch the edited versions when they come out, please come to camphacker.org and find the show there. So we'll be putting that up as soon as we get them edited, the nice HD version of what we're covering today. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Thank you, Travis. If you guys want to find out more about what I do, you can visit my website at thecampcounselor.com. I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and thanks for watching, and I'm excited to see you all next summer.
Well, my body